not telling us in advance that you're divorced.
I guess I don't know who I would have told.
I'm not going to let them bring any evil in here.
Suddenly Amish recap and spoilers. Season 1, Episode 3, Matt's exit shakes the community as Kendra cracks, Judah draws a line, and conformity becomes a breaking point. Episode 3 of Suddenly Amish marks a turning point in the experiment, shifting the focus from curiosity and adjustment to emotional unraveling, personal boundaries, and the high cost of conformity. With Reckoning Day now only 3 weeks away, the pressure inside the Amish community intensifies, and the cracks among the outsiders widen. This episode is defined by departures, both literal and emotional. Matt's abrupt exit exposes unresolved feelings, Kendra's struggle reaches a breaking point, and Judah openly refuses to bend in ways that challenge his identity. What begins as a quiet removal turns into a cascade of consequences that ripple through every participant. 3 weeks from Reckoning Day, the stakes are raised. The episode opens with a sobering reminder: Reckoning Day is just 3 weeks away. This looming deadline reframes every decision, every rule, and every emotional response. What once felt like a cultural exchange now feels like a test of endurance and belief. Matt arrives to collect his belongings, signaling his official removal from the Amish community. His demeanor is subdued, but the weight of his departure hangs heavily over the household. While his exit is framed as necessary, it is clear that unanswered questions remain. Matt turns to Sarah and Alan to discuss what led to this moment. He does not offer a full confession, but his guarded tone fuels speculation. James, in particular, believes Matt is hiding much more than he is admitting. This belief sets the tone for the episode. Trust is fragile and transparency is increasingly demanded. Matt's exit leaves emotional fallout in its wake. Although Matt's departure is decisive, its emotional consequences are anything but clean. Kendra immediately retreats, locking herself in her room. Her reaction reveals a deeply personal struggle that runs counter to the purpose of the experiment. She has developed romantic feelings for Matt, feelings that are not only discouraged but fundamentally incompatible with the Amish way of life. Kendra's isolation underscores the internal conflict she is experiencing. She came to immerse herself in Amish values, yet her emotional attachment exposes how difficult it is to separate human connection from belief systems. Her distress is not loud or performative, it is quiet, internal, and consuming. As Matt is driven away from the community, James watches closely, convinced that Matt's removal is only the beginning. To him, Matt represents unresolved issues that could resurface in others. Fear of being next, anxiety spreads through the group. Matt's removal triggers anxiety among the remaining participants. If Matt can be sent home, anyone can. Billy Jo admits she is afraid something from her past could surface and disqualify her. Her fear is not rooted in rebellion, but in vulnerability. She understands that this environment demands transparency, yet transparency can be dangerous. Judah's fear is more specific and more deeply rooted. He worries that his bisexuality may make him the next target. Unlike some of the others, Judah is not afraid of the labor or the lifestyle. He is afraid that who he is, at his core, may not be compatible with the Amish worldview. Alan attempts to steady the group, particularly Kendra, who continues to unravel. But emotional reassurance is difficult when the rules feel absolute and unforgiving. Kendra's breakdown in the rain. As tensions rise, Kendra's emotional state deteriorates. When the rain begins to fall, she steps outside and stands in it, soaking wet, unmoving. The moment is quiet but powerful, a physical manifestation of emotional overwhelm. Alan watches, unsure how to intervene. Sarah sits on the porch, equally uncertain. Both adults recognize Kendra's pain, but they are constrained by the rules of the community and the boundaries of the experiment. Kendra's breakdown is not defiant. It is desperate. She is grieving the loss of connection, comfort, and familiarity, and she has no outlet. Meanwhile, other tensions simmer. Aaron continues to struggle without his hearing aids, which depend on a phone application to function. James refuses to allow him access to the phone, prioritizing community rules over individual accommodation. This decision adds another layer of ethical complexity to the episode. The bat discovery forces a temporary relocation. In a quieter subplot, Alan discovers bats in the family's living space. The presence of bats is not treated lightly. It is a health concern that demands immediate action. James offers a solution. Alan and his family can stay with him temporarily until the bat issue is resolved. The offer is generous, but also revealing. It shows James's willingness to bend in practical matters, even as he remains rigid in others. While the men are out addressing logistical issues, the women remain behind, performing repetitive labor. Esmeralda grows visibly frustrated. She has been washing chairs for hours, repeating the same task day after day. Her frustration is not about the work itself, it is about stagnation. She feels trapped in monotony, disconnected from progress or purpose. The phone shanty and Kendra's emotional plea. James proposes building a phone shanty, a designated structure where limited phone use can occur under strict conditions. The idea is presented as a compromise, an attempt to bridge modern needs with Amish values. When Kendra learns about the phone shanty, she approaches James. This is not a confrontation, it is a plea. She explains that she is struggling deeply and needs to speak with her mother. For Kendra, calling her mom is not a luxury. It is a coping mechanism. She has always relied on that connection during moments of distress, and its absence has left her emotionally unmoored. James listens, but reiterates that phones are not allowed, at least not yet. The phone shanty is still unfinished. Kendra's response is immediate and heartbreaking. She says she wants to go home. She walks down the road toward the cornfields, and James follows her. In this quiet walk, James admits he has a soft spot for Kendra. Her vulnerability resonates with him in a way that challenges his rigidity. James breaks his own rule. In a moment that encapsulates the episode's moral complexity, James admits that he himself has a phone, one he was disciplined for possessing. He makes a decision that contradicts the rules he enforces. He allows Kendra to use his phone to call her mother, on the condition that no one else finds out. The call is brief but emotionally overwhelming. When Kendra's mother answers, Kendra breaks down. She tells her mother how much she misses her and explains the restrictions of the community. The moment is raw and deeply human. It highlights the emotional cost of isolation and the necessity of connection. After the call, Kendra hugs James, grateful for his compassion. James's decision exposes the tension between rule enforcement and empathy, a tension that will undoubtedly resurface. Sarah takes the girls shopping for dresses. The episode shifts to a quieter, but equally significant storyline as Sarah takes the women shopping for fabric to make traditional Amish dresses. Sarah explains that she has made her own dresses for years and begins teaching the others how to do the same. She demonstrates how patterns can be made from newspaper, emphasizing resourcefulness and simplicity. Billy Joe looks for fabric that will be suitable for cooler weather, and Sarah helps guide her. The activity becomes a bonding experience, offering a sense of purpose and creativity amid restriction. Ella joins the group to assist, reinforcing communal support. Transformation without mirrors. One of the most striking aspects of this segment is the absence of mirrors. When the women change into their dresses, they cannot see themselves. Billy Joe goes first. After dressing, the women help her put her hair up in the traditional Amish style. When she steps out, the transformation is complete. Kendra follows. She admits that dressing this way makes her feel like a hypocrite. Without a mirror, she has no idea what she looks like. The loss of visual identity compounds her emotional disorientation. The exercise is symbolic. The Amish emphasis on humility over appearance contrasts sharply with modern values of self-expression. Judah faces the razor. For the men, conformity takes a more confrontational turn. Judah is told that because he is single, he must shave his beard to align with Amish customs. Judah immediately resists. He argues that shaving should be a personal preference, not a mandate. James challenges him directly, asking whether Judah truly wants to be Amish if he is unwilling to follow the rules. Judah's refusal is not about vanity. It is about autonomy. For him, this rule represents a slippery slope, one where identity is slowly eroded under the guise of tradition. Esmeralda refuses to remove her nails and lashes. At the same time, Esmeralda faces her own ultimatum. She had previously agreed to remove her nails and eyelashes, but now she hesitates. The women attempt to persuade her gently. Billy Joe explains that she does not need lashes or nails to be beautiful. Others remind her that God would love her regardless. But Esmeralda sees it differently. To her, these changes strip away her self-esteem. They are not superficial, they are tied to how she sees herself. Her refusal escalates the tension, especially when Judah steps in. Judah draws a line and threatens to leave. Judah declares that if Esmeralda is punished for refusing to remove her nails and lashes, then he will not comply with the shaving rule. He frames it as an issue of fairness and solidarity. If Esmeralda is denied her dress, he will refuse to wear his Amish clothing. When Esmeralda threatens to leave, Judah promises to leave with her. This moment crystallizes the episode's central conflict: how much of oneself must be surrendered to belong. Judah's stance is not impulsive. It is deliberate and principled. He is willing to walk away rather than compromise his sense of self or abandon someone else to face judgment alone. Conclusion: a community at the brink. Season 1, Episode 3 of Suddenly Amish transforms the series from an observational experiment into an emotional crucible. Matt's exit reveals how quickly belonging can be revoked. Kendra's breakdown exposes the psychological toll of isolation. James's secret phone call highlights the conflict between compassion and doctrine. And Judah's refusal marks the first open rebellion against enforced conformity. With Reckoning Day approaching, the question is no longer whether the participants can live Amish, but whether they should have to lose themselves to do so. Suddenly Amish recap and spoilers. Season 1, Episode 3. Matt's exit, Kendra conforms, Judah refuses. Suddenly Amish reveals that today is 3 weeks from Reckoning Day. Matt has come to pick up his things and has turned to Sarah and Alan to discuss what was happening. Kendra locks herself in her room as she has been crushing on Matt, something that goes completely against the point of them being there. Matt is driven away from the community and James believes Matt is hiding a lot of stuff. Matt's exit brings up other issues. Kendra is very upset over Matt's departure. Billy Joe admits that she is afraid she may have done something in her past that could get her thrown out of the community as well. Judah is very nervous that his bisexuality may cause him to be the next person who gets sent home. Alan talks to Kendra and tries to calm her down. It starts to rain and Kendra goes out and stands there getting wet. Alan is not sure what to do about Kendra as she continues to melt down. Sarah sits on the porch and watches Kendra, unsure what to do as well. Aaron is still having issues without his hearing aids and James refuses to allow him to keep his phone that makes them work. Alan discovers bats and decides the family has to move. James offers to allow Alan and the rest of the family to stay with him until they get rid of the bat problem. Esmeralda is upset that they have been there for a week and continues to do the same work over and over. The ladies have been washing chairs for 3 hours while the men are out with James. James wants to build a phone shanty. Kendra walks out to see what they are doing and plans to inquire about the phone shanty. Kendra explains to James that she is struggling and needs to talk to her mom. Kendra is used to talking to her mom every time she is upset. Kendra has been trying to do what she needs to do, but she wants to talk to her mom. Kendra wants to hear her mom's voice. Kendra wants to go home. James explains that they do not have phones there, but she can use the phone shanty when they get it built. Kendra is not happy with this and says she wants to go home. Kendra walks down the road toward the cornfields and James follows. James admits that he has a soft spot for Kendra. Will James give in and allow her to use a cell phone when he got in trouble himself for having one? James explains that he has a phone and allows her to call her mom. James doesn't want them to know he has a phone. Kendra calls and her mom finally answers. Kendra breaks down and tells her mom how much she misses her. Kendra explains how they aren't allowed to have a phone there and why. Kendra spends a short time on the phone and hugs James for allowing this. Sarah takes the girls shopping. Sarah takes the girls to shop for material to make dresses out of. Billy Joe finds someone to help her look at material for cooler dresses. Sarah has made her own dresses for years and shows the other ladies how to make them. Sarah explains that you can make patterns out of newspaper. Aaron and Judah have to begin to dress the way the men in the community dress. Judah doesn't believe that other black people would dress like this. Ella comes to help the ladies with their clothing. Billy Joe offers to go first. The ladies help Billy Joe to put her hair up after putting on her dress. Billy Joe comes out and sends Kendra in for the next change. Kendra admits that she feels like a hypocrite dressing this way. Kendra has no idea what she looks like because there are no mirrors. Judah has to shave because he is single. Judah does not believe he should have to shave because it should be a personal preference. James questions if Judah is going to hang on this point if he truly wants to be Amish. Judah refuses to conform to the rules of the Amish. Esmeralda is not agreeing to remove her nails and eyelashes as she agreed to do. Billy Joe tries to help convince Esmeralda that she does not need her lashes and nails. The other ladies try to reason with her as well. Everyone understands that this is a huge change, but the nails and the makeup has to go. Billy Joe tries to explain that Esmeralda is not doing this alone. The ladies try to explain that God would love her either way. Esmeralda feels that this is taking away her self-esteem, and she doesn't want to do that. Judah says he is not going to wear his clothes when he didn't shave if Esmeralda cannot wear her dress for not removing her nails and eyelashes. Judah offers to leave if that is how this is going to play out. Esmeralda is threatening to leave and Judah promises to leave right behind her. With Reckoning Day just 3 weeks away, the pressure inside the Amish community intensifies dramatically. Every rule feels heavier. Every emotional reaction carries greater consequence. The participants are no longer adjusting to discomfort. They are confronting the possibility that who they are may not survive the process intact. This episode is shaped by departures both visible and internal. Matt's removal exposes hidden attachments and unspoken fears. Kendra's emotional unraveling reveals the toll of severed lifelines. Judah's refusal to conform marks the first outright challenge to Amish authority. Together, these moments create a cascading crisis that affects every member of the group. 3 weeks from Reckoning Day, the experiment enters its most dangerous phase. The episode opens with a stark reminder: Reckoning Day is only 3 weeks away. This simple statement recontextualizes everything that follows. What once felt like a learning experience now feels like a countdown. Reckoning Day is not merely an end date. It represents judgment, decision, and permanence. By this point, the participants are expected not only to understand Amish customs, but to embody them. Compliance is no longer optional. Emotional resilience is no longer theoretical. This shift in tone is immediately reinforced by Matt's presence. He arrives not as a participant, but as someone already cast out. Matt returns to collect his belongings. Matt's arrival to retrieve his things signals his official removal from the community. The atmosphere surrounding his return is subdued and uneasy. There is no confrontation, no dramatic outburst. Instead, there is a quiet heaviness, the kind that accompanies unresolved truth. Matt speaks with Sarah and Alan about what led to his exit. His explanations are vague and carefully worded. He does not fully disclose the circumstances that caused the Amish leadership to remove him, and this guardedness immediately raises suspicion. James, in particular, is unconvinced. He believes Matt is concealing significant information, details that could implicate others or reveal deeper rule violations. This belief becomes foundational to the episode's tension. If Matt was hiding something, who else might be doing the same? Trust, already fragile, begins to erode. Kendra retreats as Matt is sent away. While Matt prepares to leave, Kendra disappears into her room and locks the door. Her reaction is immediate and intense, signaling that Matt's exit affects her far more deeply than anyone initially realized. It becomes clear that Kendra has developed romantic feelings for Matt, feelings that stand in direct opposition to the purpose of the Amish immersion. Emotional attachment, particularly romantic attachment, undermines the spiritual discipline the experiment is meant to instill. Kendra's reaction is not loud or disruptive. She does not argue or plead. Instead, she withdraws completely. This withdrawal reveals a deeper internal struggle, the collision between her emotional instincts and the expectations placed upon her. As Matt is driven away from the community, James watches closely. To him, Matt's removal is not an isolated incident. It is a warning. The fear of being next takes hold. Matt's exit sends shockwaves through the remaining participants. The realization is sobering. Removal can happen suddenly, quietly, and without negotiation. Billy Joe voices a fear that has likely been simmering beneath the surface. She worries that something in her past, something undisclosed or forgotten, could disqualify her just as quickly. Her fear is not rebellious, it is rooted in vulnerability. Transparency, she realizes, is both demanded and dangerous. Judah's fear is more specific and deeply personal. He worries that his bisexuality may make him incompatible with Amish values. Unlike concerns about behavior or compliance, Judah's fear centers on identity. This is not something he can change without erasing a fundamental part of himself. Alan attempts to calm the group, particularly Kendra, whose emotional state continues to deteriorate. But reassurance rings hollow when the rules feel absolute and the consequences irreversible. Kendra's emotional collapse in the rain. As the tension escalates, Kendra reaches a breaking point. When the rain begins to fall, she walks outside and stands motionless beneath it, allowing herself to become completely soaked. The moment is quiet but devastating. It is not a performance. It is surrender. Alan watches from a distance, unsure how to intervene. Sarah sits on the porch, equally uncertain. Both recognize Kendra's distress, but both are constrained by Amish rules, by the structure of the experiment, and by uncertainty over how much intervention is allowed. Kendra's breakdown is not defiant. It is grief. She is mourning the loss of comfort, familiarity, emotional safety, and connection. With no outlet and no support system, her emotions have nowhere to go. Aaron's hearing aids and the ethics of accommodation. Running parallel to Kendra's crisis is Aaron's ongoing struggle with his hearing aids. His devices rely on a phone application to function properly, but James refuses to allow him access to a phone. This decision introduces a serious ethical dilemma. The Amish rejection of technology is rooted in spiritual principle, but Aaron's need is medical. By denying him access, the community prioritizes doctrine over accommodation. The episode does not resolve this conflict, but it places it squarely in the viewer's consciousness. The line between faith and harm begins to blur. The discovery of Bats forces a temporary relocation. In a quieter but symbolically significant subplot, Alan discovers bats in the family's living space. The discovery is treated with urgency. Bats present a health risk and cannot be ignored. James offers a solution. Alan and his family may stay with him until the issue is resolved. The offer is generous, but it also highlights James's flexibility in practical matters, even as he remains rigid in emotional and ideological ones. While the men address logistical concerns, the women remain behind, continuing their daily labor. Esmeralda's frustration with repetition. As the women wash chairs for hours, Esmeralda's frustration becomes evident. She has been performing the same task repeatedly for a week, with no variation and no visible progress. Her frustration is not rooted in laziness or resistance to work. It is about stagnation. The repetition feels endless and purposeless, draining her sense of agency. The phone shanty, a compromise that comes too late. James proposes the construction of a phone shanty, a separate structure where limited phone use may eventually be permitted. The idea is framed as a compromise between modern necessity and Amish values. When Kendra learns of the plan, she approaches James. Her demeanor is calm but desperate. She explains that she is struggling deeply and needs to speak with her mother. For Kendra, calling her mom is not indulgent. It is essential. It is how she regulates emotion, processes distress, and maintains stability. James listens, but explains that phones are not currently allowed and that the shanty is not yet built. The delay is devastating. Kendra responds simply, she wants to go home. Kendra walks toward the cornfields. Kendra walks away from the group, down the road toward the cornfields. James follows her. In this quiet walk, James admits something significant. He has a soft spot for Kendra. Her vulnerability challenges his commitment to strict rule enforcement. This admission sets the stage for one of the episode's most consequential moments. James breaks his own rule. James reveals that he himself owns a phone he was disciplined for having. In an act of compassion that directly contradicts Amish rules, he allows Kendra to use it to call her mother. The condition is secrecy. The call is brief but emotionally overwhelming. When her mother answers, Kendra breaks down, expressing how much she misses her and how isolated she feels. She explains the phone restrictions and the emotional toll they have taken. The moment is raw, intimate, and deeply human. After the call, Kendra hugs James, thanking him. His decision exposes the central contradiction of the episode. Rules can be enforced, but empathy cannot be extinguished. As the immediate emotional fallout from Matt's departure settles, Suddenly Amish pivots into a quieter, but equally consequential phase of Episode 3. While the earlier portions of the episode focus on visible emotional breakdowns, the next sequence explores something more subtle and insidious: the gradual reshaping of identity through enforced appearance, gender roles, and symbolic submission. What unfolds is not merely about clothing or grooming. It is about who gets to define the self and at what cost. Sarah leads the women into Amish dressmaking. With tensions still simmering, Sarah takes the women into town to purchase fabric for traditional Amish dresses. The excursion is framed as practical instruction, but it carries deep symbolic weight. Sarah explains that she has made her own dresses for years. For her, this practice is second nature, rooted in values of simplicity, humility, and self-sufficiency. She approaches the task with confidence and calm, embodying the life the others are being asked to adopt. She shows the women how to choose fabric based on durability rather than aesthetics. Function, not fashion, guides every decision. Billy Joe expresses concern about temperature and comfort, searching for materials suitable for cooler weather. Sarah listens and helps her find appropriate options, reinforcing that practicality does not mean discomfort, but it does require restraint. Sarah also demonstrates how patterns can be made from newspaper. This moment highlights a foundational Amish principle: resourcefulness over consumption. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is ornamental. For some women, this lesson feels grounding. For others, it feels restrictive. Community support and quiet pressure. Ella joins the group to assist with the dressmaking process. Her presence reinforces the communal nature of Amish life, where skills are shared and individual struggles are absorbed by the group. On the surface, the atmosphere appears supportive. The women work together, ask questions, and assist one another. Yet beneath the cooperation lies quiet pressure. Participation is not optional. Resistance is not encouraged. This is not coercion in its loudest form. It is conformity through expectation. Dressing without mirrors, losing the self you recognize. One of the most psychologically striking aspects of this segment is the absence of mirrors. As the women change into their Amish dresses, they are unable to see themselves. There is no reflection, no visual confirmation of identity. What remains is only how they feel and how others perceive them. Billy Joe goes first. After she puts on her dress, the women help her arrange her hair in the traditional Amish style. The transformation is immediate and unmistakable. When Billy Joe steps back into the room, she is visibly different. Not just in appearance, but in posture and presence. She looks uncertain, as though she is waiting for permission to exist in this new form. The group responds with encouragement, reinforcing acceptance through approval. Kendra's quiet confession of hypocrisy. Kendra is next. As she prepares to change, she admits that dressing this way makes her feel like a hypocrite. She has come to immerse herself in Amish life, yet she feels disconnected from the person she sees herself to be. Without a mirror, she has no idea what she looks like. This lack of visual feedback compounds her emotional disorientation. She cannot reconcile her internal identity with her external presentation. For Kendra, the clothing is not just unfamiliar, it feels dishonest. She is wearing something she does not yet believe in, and the absence of reflection forces her to confront that contradiction internally. This moment underscores one of the episode's central themes: transformation without consent feels like erasure. Amish clothing as moral language. In the Amish worldview, clothing is not personal expression. It is moral language. Every element, fabric, cut, color, communicates humility, obedience, and submission to God. Individuality is intentionally minimized, not to punish, but to prevent pride. For the outsiders, this concept clashes with deeply ingrained modern values. Clothing has long been tied to self-expression, identity, and autonomy. Removing that layer strips away a familiar form of control. The women's reactions reflect varying levels of acceptance, discomfort, and internal conflict. The men face their own test of conformity. While the women navigate changes in dress, the men are confronted with equally symbolic demands. Aaron and Judah are instructed to begin dressing in traditional Amish men's clothing. For Aaron, the transition appears challenging but manageable. His greater struggle remains his hearing impairment and the limitations imposed by the phone ban. For Judah, however, the clothing is only the beginning. Judah is told he must shave because he is single. James informs Judah that because he is unmarried, Amish custom requires him to shave his beard. The rule is presented as non-negotiable, a standard expectation for single men. Judah immediately pushes back. He argues that shaving should be a personal preference, not a mandated act of conformity. His resistance is calm but firm. He does not raise his voice or insult the tradition. Instead, he questions the premise. James responds by reframing the issue as a test of commitment. He asks Judah directly whether he truly wants to be Amish if he cannot accept the rules. This exchange marks a critical shift in the episode. Until now, resistance has been emotional or internal. Judah's refusal is intellectual and principled. Judah's resistance is about autonomy, not vanity. Judah makes it clear that his objection is not rooted in appearance. He is not clinging to his beard for style or ego. To him, the shaving requirement represents something larger, the loss of bodily autonomy in service of tradition. He sees the rule as a slippery slope. If he surrenders control over his appearance, what comes next? At what point does conformity become self-erasure? This concern is particularly significant given Judah's earlier fear that his bisexuality may already place him at odds with Amish values. For Judah, compliance feels less like participation and more like capitulation. Esmeralda faces her own ultimatum. As Judah grapples with the shaving requirement, Esmeralda is confronted with an equally challenging demand. She had previously agreed to remove her nails and eyelashes as part of her immersion into Amish life. Now, faced with actually doing so, she hesitates. The women attempt to support her. Billy Joe gently explains that beauty does not require lashes or nails. Others echo the sentiment, emphasizing inner worth and spiritual value. They remind her that God would love her regardless of how she looks. But Esmeralda's resistance runs deeper than vanity, self-esteem, and the fear of disappearance. For Esmeralda, her nails and lashes are not superficial enhancements. They are part of how she maintains her self-esteem and sense of identity. She expresses that removing them feels like stripping away confidence rather than shedding excess. Unlike clothing, which can be changed, these choices feel personal and intimate. Esmeralda fears that complying will leave her feeling diminished, not spiritually enriched. Her refusal introduces a critical question the episode repeatedly returns to: where is the line between humility and harm? The group attempts gentle persuasion. Billy Joe tries to frame the situation as collective rather than individual. She reminds Esmeralda that she is not alone, that everyone is making sacrifices. The women emphasize solidarity, shared struggle, and faith. Yet, even in their kindness, the pressure is clear. The nails and lashes have to go. Agreement was already given. Compliance is expected. Esmeralda's discomfort escalates as she realizes her feelings are being acknowledged, but not accommodated. Judah intervenes and draws a line. Judah steps in, linking his own situation with Esmeralda's. He declares that if Esmeralda is punished or denied participation for refusing to remove her nails and lashes, then he will not comply with the shaving rule. His stance reframes the conflict as an issue of fairness and solidarity. If Esmeralda is excluded for protecting her sense of self, Judah refuses to sacrifice his own. He makes it clear that he will not wear Amish clothing if Esmeralda is barred from wearing hers. This moment is pivotal. It transforms individual resistance into collective defiance. The threat of departure becomes real. When Esmeralda suggests she may leave the experiment, Judah does not hesitate. He promises to leave with her. This is not an emotional outburst. It is a calculated decision. Judah is willing to walk away rather than participate in a system that, in his view, demands submission without compassion. The threat of departure shifts the power dynamic. What was once a matter of rule enforcement becomes a test of how much the Amish leaders are willing to lose to preserve tradition. Identity versus belonging. At its core, this conflict is not about nails, lashes, or beards. It is about identity versus belonging. The Amish system prioritizes collective harmony over individual expression. The experiment demands participants temporarily suspend parts of themselves to experience that harmony. But Episode 3 exposes the limits of that suspension. For Kendra, the limit is emotional isolation. For Aaron, it is functional necessity. For Esmeralda, it is self-esteem. For Judah, it is autonomy and identity. A community at an inflection point. As Episode 3 approaches its final moments, the community stands at a crossroads. Matt is already gone. Kendra is emotionally fragile. James has broken his own rule in secret. Judah and Esmeralda are openly challenging expectations. The question is no longer whether the outsiders can adapt to Amish life. The question is whether Amish life, even temporarily, can make room for them without breaking something essential. James at the center of the storm. James emerges as the episode's most conflicted figure. Throughout the season, he has served as both gatekeeper and guide, responsible for upholding Amish standards while shepherding outsiders through an unfamiliar world. In Episode 3, that balance collapses. By secretly allowing Kendra to use his phone, James compromises the very rules he enforces. This act of compassion, while deeply human, introduces hypocrisy into the system. James now embodies the contradiction at the heart of the experiment. Empathy is necessary for survival, yet forbidden by structure. This contradiction does not remain isolated. Once rules are broken quietly, authority weakens loudly. The unspoken cost of secrecy. James's decision to hide his phone use carries consequences beyond the moment itself. Secrecy undermines trust, not just between leaders and participants, but within leadership itself. If rules are flexible when emotions run high, then participants inevitably begin to question why their own needs are denied. Compassion, once selectively applied, becomes a source of resentment rather than relief. James does not articulate this aloud, but his internal conflict is evident. He is no longer simply enforcing tradition. He is negotiating guilt, empathy, and fear of exposure. The episode makes it clear, the Amish system does not account for emotional triage. When vulnerability appears, leaders are left to improvise. Kendra's temporary relief and lingering fragility. Kendra's phone call provides momentary comfort, but it does not resolve her emotional crisis. The relief she experiences is fleeting, and the reality of her isolation remains unchanged. What the call does accomplish is something more dangerous to the structure of the experiment. It reminds Kendra of the life she left behind. Hearing her mother's voice reawakens a sense of safety that the Amish environment cannot provide. This moment subtly shifts Kendra's internal trajectory. She is no longer just struggling to adapt. She is actively comparing two worlds and realizing what she is losing. The episode suggests that once that comparison is made, full immersion becomes nearly impossible. Aaron's silence and the weight of exclusion. While Aaron's storyline remains quieter, it grows heavier in implication. His continued difficulty functioning without his hearing aids highlights a systemic blind spot. The Amish rules do not bend for accessibility. Aaron does not protest loudly. He does not threaten to leave. Instead, he adapts silently, absorbing the consequences of a system that was never designed to accommodate difference. His silence stands in contrast to Judah's vocal resistance, yet both expose the same truth. Uniformity often excludes those who do not fit neatly within it. Leadership without flexibility. As challenges mount, the Amish leadership faces an increasingly difficult reality. The rules are clear, but their application is causing visible harm. The episode offers no dramatic council meeting or explicit confrontation. Instead, the leadership's rigidity is shown through inaction. Rules remain unchanged, expectations unsoftened. This refusal to adapt reinforces a core Amish principle: faith is not meant to be convenient. However, the experiment introduces a complication the tradition itself does not typically face: outsiders with modern emotional frameworks, psychological expectations, and personal boundaries. The collision is unavoidable. Judah's stand as a defining moment. Judah's refusal to shave and his solidarity with Esmeralda represent the episode's most overt challenge to authority. Unlike emotional breakdowns or private compromises, Judah's stance is public and unwavering. He does not frame his resistance as rebellion. He frames it as integrity. Judah's willingness to leave rather than submit reframes the power dynamic. For the first time, the Amish leadership must confront the possibility that strict enforcement may dismantle the experiment itself. This moment also reveals something crucial about Judah's character. He is not merely protecting himself, he is protecting another person's dignity. In doing so, he introduces a value that the Amish system struggles to integrate: individual moral agency. Esmeralda's refusal as self-preservation. Esmeralda's resistance to removing her nails and lashes remains unresolved by the episode's end, but its significance is clear. Her refusal is not framed as vanity, defiance, or disrespect. It is framed as self-preservation. The episode treats her concerns seriously, acknowledging that identity is not superficial and that forced removal of self-expression can feel deeply violating. Esmeralda's struggle underscores a recurring theme. When conformity demands psychological harm, compliance becomes unsustainable. The group dynamic begins to fracture. By the end of episode 3, the group no longer operates as a unified body. Emotional alliances have shifted, trust has eroded, and boundaries have been drawn. Some participants lean toward quiet endurance, others toward open resistance. A few hover on the edge of departure. Matt's exit now feels less like an anomaly and more like a precedent. The experiment's cohesion weakens not because of chaos, but because of clarity. Each participant is learning where their breaking point lies: conformity versus consent. Perhaps the most significant transformation in episode 3 is the reframing of conformity itself. Earlier episodes portrayed conformity as a learning tool, an opportunity to experience life differently. Episode 3 reveals conformity as a demand that carries consequences when consent is absent. The Amish way of life relies on voluntary commitment rooted in faith. The experiment, however, imposes that commitment temporarily on individuals who do not share the same spiritual foundation. This mismatch creates tension that no amount of instruction can resolve. A turning point for the series. Season 1, Episode 3 permanently alters the trajectory of Suddenly Amish. The series can no longer rely on novelty or culture shock. It must now contend with the emotional and ethical consequences of its premise. Matt's removal shows how quickly belonging can be revoked. Kendra's breakdown exposes the cost of emotional deprivation. James's secret compassion reveals the limits of rule enforcement. Judah and Esmeralda's resistance challenges the morality of forced humility. Together, these threads converge into a single, pressing question: is transformation meaningful if it requires losing oneself to achieve it? Conclusion: the experiment's moral reckoning begins. By the episode's final moments, Reckoning Day feels less like a future event and more like a present reality. The Amish community remains intact, but its authority has been tested. The participants remain present, but their commitment is fractured. Episode 3 does not offer resolution. It offers revelation. The experiment is no longer about living Amish. It is about deciding what parts of oneself are negotiable and what parts are not. And for several participants, that decision has already been made. Matt's absence becomes a presence. Although Matt exits early in the episode, his absence continues to shape events long after he is gone. His removal introduces a new psychological reality. Departure is not hypothetical. Before Matt leaves, participants discuss discomfort, frustration, and doubt in abstract terms. After his exit, those same emotions gain weight. The question is no longer if someone might leave, but when and why. Matt's removal also normalizes silence. He does not fight the decision publicly. He does not offer closure. That lack of explanation creates a vacuum that others fill with fear, suspicion, and self-surveillance. Every participant now measures their words, actions, and emotions more carefully. Kendra's emotional survival mode. Kendra's storyline does not conclude with her phone call. Instead, it shifts into something quieter and more concerning: emotional survival mode. After speaking with her mother, Kendra appears calmer on the surface, but that calm is deceptive. The episode suggests she is no longer trying to thrive within the Amish environment. She is trying to endure it. Her earlier breakdown in the rain, followed by the secret phone call, creates a psychological pivot. Kendra has reconnected with the world outside, and that connection changes her internal calculus. Rather than asking how she can adapt, she now seems to be asking how long she can last. This shift is subtle but critical. Emotional endurance, without belief, often leads to withdrawal rather than growth. The dangerous precedent of selective compassion. James's decision to allow Kendra to use his phone, while compassionate, introduces a dangerous precedent that episode 3 leaves deliberately unresolved. Once compassion is applied selectively, authority becomes inconsistent. Participants may not know exactly what rules can be bent, but they now know bending is possible. This realization undermines the moral clarity of the Amish structure within the experiment. Rules are no longer absolute, they are situational. James himself appears aware of this risk. His secrecy suggests guilt, but also fear. He understands that once his action becomes known, it could unravel his credibility entirely. The episode quietly poses a difficult question: is a system that requires secrecy to remain humane sustainable? Aaron's continued marginalization. Aaron's storyline remains understated, yet its implications deepen in Part 4. His difficulty functioning without his hearing aids is not framed as an isolated inconvenience. It becomes emblematic of systemic exclusion. The Amish rules do not account for assistive technology. The experiment, by extension, does not either. Aaron's compliance contrasts sharply with Judah's resistance. Where Judah confronts authority, Aaron absorbs its consequences. Neither approach is portrayed as wrong, but both highlight the same truth: systems built on uniformity struggle to accommodate difference. The absence of a solution for Aaron suggests that endurance, rather than inclusion, is the expectation. Esmeralda's emotional withdrawal. As tensions surrounding appearance and conformity escalate, Esmeralda's response begins to shift from resistance to withdrawal. Her refusal to remove her nails and lashes is not resolved through persuasion or compromise. Instead, she grows quieter, more guarded. This withdrawal signals emotional fatigue. When resistance fails to produce understanding, silence often replaces protest. The episode implies that Esmeralda is reaching a point where participation feels emotionally unsafe. Her threat to leave is not impulsive, it is protective. Judah's role as moral counterweight. Judah's presence becomes increasingly significant as the episode concludes. His willingness to leave alongside Esmeralda establishes him as a moral counterweight within the group. Unlike other participants, Judah articulates his boundaries clearly and consistently. He does not seek to change Amish values, he seeks to protect his own integrity. His stance forces the leadership and the audience to confront a central contradiction of the experiment. Participation is voluntary, but compliance is treated as mandatory. Judah's resistance reframes departure not as failure, but as self-respect. Group dynamics shift from unity to alignment. Earlier episodes emphasize group cohesion and shared experience. By the end of episode 3, that cohesion fractures into smaller alignments. Some participants gravitate toward quiet endurance, others toward emotional withdrawal. a few toward principled resistance. This fragmentation weakens the experiment's original structure. Instead of a unified group adapting together, individuals begin navigating parallel emotional journeys. The Amish environment remains communal, but the participants' experiences become increasingly solitary.